couples enter retirement, there are some money conversations that just can't be ignored. And today, our host, Adam Wolf, is going to walk us through the money conversations every couple should have as they plan for retirement together. You're listening to Jacksonville's Retirement Coach. I'm here with our host, Adam Wolf. Adam is a certified financial planner and president of Wolf Retirement Navigation. You can learn more at wolfretirement.com. Adam, always a pleasure to chat with you.
Great to see you, Alyssa.
Adam, I wanted to start it off with some humor. Ryan Beck is a comedian and he's a filmmaker who draws from experiences based on his parents. They are now retired, but I wanted to start off with this little funny clip to share.
If you don't have retired parents, basically what that means is that now I call them up on the phone and they've been answering the phone as a team. I don't know why that started, but they're just like, the phone's ringing? Well, we better both hop on this. Who knows who's calling? Just hello, you're on speaker. Why? Why am I on speaker? Every time I call them, I'm on speaker. I'm like, Dad, why am I on speaker? He's like, anything you can say to me, you can say in front of your mother. Is she your attorney? Why is counsel present? What's happening?
So I love this idea that when you are in retirement, you are a team. And it paints such a funny picture to me because I can remember my grandparents being that way. If you called, you got both of them. Both my grandmother and my grandfather were on the phone at the same time. And even my parents did the same thing. But when it comes to money conversations, people aren't always the team they need to be. And so I thought that was an interesting way to segue into today's topic of what conversations should people be having about money to make sure they are a team.
Yeah, great question and really funny segment there. That was hilarious because I see it all the time, back when my father was alive and we had the same conversations. You put it on speaker. It was wonderful. So, but when I meet with people, when I meet with couples, they each have had their own, history with money. Mm. And even if they've been married or they're just together, they've been together for, 5, 10, 20, 50 years sometimes, they all had their own history of money. So it's the way they were raised. Are they a saver or are they a spender? Are they a saver trying to become a spender? That's what I see a lot in my practice because we get to this point where we've saved all this money. We're now in retirement or getting close to retirement. It's about enjoying the money because you didn't sit there and work for decades upon decades upon decades to get to a point to not spend it and not enjoy it. And that doesn't mean to be frivolous with the money. That just means that whatever your goal in retirement is to be, it is to enjoy it as much as possible. And sometimes when there's couples involved, that's two people speaking for one a lot of times. So I see it not only with the discussions overall of how to save for money, because that's a whole nother ball game. And we only work with people who are nearing or in retirement. And by that time, they've saved enough for the most part, or maybe they think they haven't saved enough. And they meet with us and it turns out they did and they have. So the saving piece is there, but really it's the spending piece. Mm. And I tell people all the time, you wouldn't have all this if you were a spendthrift or living outside your means. But it's all about having that conversation, having that open communication. And sometimes I act as the facilitator. Can't say therapist, but facilitator of these conversations of what can we spend? How do we spend it? What do we spend it on? I can't help with that, but how much we can, what's reasonable. I'm there for that conversation when we build the plans out with people.
What do you think is enough time to talk about money? How often should couples be having these money conversations? Is it a yearly thing? Is it quarterly? Is it once every 5 years?
Yeah, everybody's different. There needs to be a weekly check-in to see how the day-to-day finances are going. Anytime there is I'd say about a once a month sitting down, looking at the budget, and then every quarter getting together, looking at the investments. I know some people are looking at the investments 15 times a day. I wouldn't recommend that in retirement if you want to enjoy retirement, because you might have a serious series of red all week because the markets are down or going sideways. So check in every week, every month, looking at the budget, and then every quarter. And then obviously at tax time, sitting down and looking at the taxes. And a lot of times for the day-to-day operational stuff, it's a divide and conquer. One of us is better than the other. Hey, if you give us 2 plus 2, it's going to equal 5. We don't want that person being in charge of the money. But in all seriousness, it comes down to having the communication open, and more is, in my opinion, better than less.
I know one of the conversations that couples often dread having, but it's so important, is the conversation about, is there a backup plan if the financial steward passes away first or develops dementia? People don't like to think about those plan Bs, but talk to us about why they're so important.
Yes, they're extremely important because things happen. Things surprise us all the time. And being in this business, seems to happen more often than not being in this business. And so it could be a tragic cancer diagnosis where we have to get our affairs in order. It could be, wow, I hit my head or came out of surgery with dementia or memory loss that sped up. Somebody needs to be able to make those decisions for people when they're in that situation. So having either a partner, having a child, having a niece, a nephew, somebody that you trust to help you with this, it involves being in front of an estate planner sometimes to get your documents drafted of what you want to have happen while you're here and while you're no longer here. When you're alive and when you're dead. That's what I tell people, with the estate plan. And it's very difficult to talk about. Nobody likes talking about our mortality, and worst off, morbidity. That's like a nice clean word for we can't do anything ourselves anymore. So financially or physically. So what I like to do is tell my clients, call us if anything happens. We're here. We're that first line of defense. Get us in front of your children early. When I say children, I mean, are your nieces, your nephews? I mean, adult folks that you trust. If you have 3 kids and one of them is really good with money or was very good at taking care of you, us getting involved and getting to know if they're from out of town, jumping on a Zoom, reviewing the plan that you're comfortable in them knowing, anything that can be done ahead of time in case something happens to you, we're here to help bridge the whole conversation. And getting in front of your kids and letting them know your plan first and foremost makes it easier if and when that time comes.
Another topic that often comes up when people are having the money conversations within a relationship is their risk tolerance. How do you help bridge the gap between, say, one person who might be a 20% risk tolerance versus an 80% risk tolerance?
Yep. Every plan needs to make sense for both involved. All right. So I haven't met anybody yet, at least I don't think I have, that we have the exact same ability to take on risk.
Sure.
Or mentally the ability to have risk. And what we do is when we run through a plan, and we prepare a plan, when we run through it and look at it initially, we need to marry those two things together. We need to marry if one of the spouses is extremely risk adverse. If they see the account go down by $1, they're hiding their head, they're not able to sleep. The other one might be, hey, let's put all of our money into speculative AI stocks. And that probably worked out pretty well these last 3 years. I'm just using this as an example. But the aggressiveness, speculative nature might be the other polar opposite. So being able to bridge both of them together, and along the way, it's more important than the investment risk that you had. Is what the investment risk needs to be. So while you're working, you could take on more risk because you're putting money away. You still have time to put money away. You also are not spending any of the money from the portfolio. And that is also a whole nother ballgame where it comes to when you start to see your money being used, not just on paper anymore, actually being used for your livelihood and your lifestyle. That is where having a different risk, and it's not 100% preservation risk, but for most people, it's taking the risk out of the stock market, reducing the risk as much as possible to still reach the goals, not taking more risk than you actually need to reach your goals. That's what we do here for our clients.
You've seen countless couples come through your office. If you could pick one thing that was a definitive decider between those that successfully worked as a team and those that didn't, what would that be?
So I'll give you an example of a client. It's Mr. Spreadsheet. I'm not going to name any names because I have multiple Mr. Spreadsheets. I have one Mrs. Spreadsheet too, but multiple Mr. Spreadsheets. I'm going to pick on them. This is more of an example that's pretty common, where I've reviewed the plan that he put together and they put together as a team, because he was taking care of the big picture, she was taking care of the day to day, and they would meet together and, oh, whatever you say, honey, it looks great. But it got to a point where now we are getting ready to retire, and we need to now use real life money from these investments. Is it going to last? Number one, did we save enough? Number two, is it going to last? And I look at the spreadsheet and I say, this looks great. The investment mix that you have is perfectly fine for you guys. I would tweak this, and this to make it a little bit better, maybe a little safer in case we hit a really, really rough market like we did in previous years ago, which we haven't had in a while, which some people sort of, that feeling of it not going down again, it will go down again, unless you're sitting in principally protected investments or insurance-based stuff or bank-related things. So to get back to the story, I favor what my husband's doing here, and I really trust him, but let's get a second set of eyes. Let's get some more confidence from a professional that does this every day with his clients. So that's really what it boiled down to, So I'm not picking on my spreadsheet guys. I love spreadsheets. They're one of my favorite, but having it on paper is one thing, having it digestible and livable and being confident enough to enjoy, that's another level above the spreadsheet level. So, which is what we help our clients with.
And someone such as yourself, you also have the 30,000-foot view. You're not emotionally attached to the story, to the money, to the savings. You can appreciate everything that got a couple to where they are, but it's not your marriage, your situation, and you're able to look at things from a non-emotional point of view, which is sometimes necessary.
Yes, it's being objective, being a financial fiduciary to put our clients' interests first before ourselves legally. A lot of advisors do it morally and ethically. We do that too, but legally with our licensing that we have. So it's a second set of eyes. It's a second opinion, and it's pulling it all together to marry both of you together, no pun intended, to a plan that you both can be successful with over time, because the worst thing for plans are veering off the plan, especially when there's emotions involved. So anything we can do to relieve or restrict or reduce those emotions, it really helps out the math behind it all.
Well, money can be one of the hardest things for couples to talk about, especially in retirement when the stakes feel higher and the decisions feel more complex. But honest conversations about finances can bring clarity and confidence. If you're looking to build a lifelong partnership with an advisor that can help you navigate these tricky conversations, head on over to wolfretirement.com, schedule that complimentary consultation with Adam today. And of course, be sure to subscribe wherever you're listening so that you never miss an episode. Thanks for tuning in.
Investment advisory services offered through Coil Capital LLC, a registered investment advisor. Wolf Retirement Navigation LLC and Coil Capital LLC are not affiliated. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. No investment strategy can guarantee a profit or protect against loss in periods of declining values. Opinions expressed are subject to change without notice and are not intended as investment advice or to predict future performance. Past performance does not guarantee future results. Consult your financial professional before making any investment decision. This information is designed to provide general information on the subjects covered. It is not, however, intended to provide specific legal or tax advice and cannot be used to avoid tax penalties or to promote, market, or recommend any tax plan or arrangement. Please note that Wolf Retirement Navigation LLC and its affiliates do not give legal or tax advice. You are encouraged to consult your tax advisor or attorney. Annuity guarantees rely on the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing insurer. Any references to protection or benefits or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products. They do not refer in any way to securities or investment advisory products or services. Fixed insurance and annuity product guarantees are subject to the claims paying ability of the issuing company and not offered by Coil Capital LLC. Florida Insurance License Number W016816.